Hey, welcome to another video. So today we're going to be going into the three strong boys, also known as Lucerys, Jaehaerys, and Joffrey Velaryon. But before I begin, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Sith Citadel Discord, link is in the description, and consider becoming a join member or sending a super thanks if you wish to further support the channel. Otherwise, let's jump straight into it. Hey, welcome to another video. So today we're going to be going into everything there is to know about Joffrey Velaryon, but before I begin, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Sith Citadel Discord, links in the description, and consider becoming a join member or sending a super thanks if you wish to further support the channel. Otherwise, let's jump straight into it. Prince Joffrey was the third son of Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen and her husband Sir Laenor Velaryon, though many whispered that the true father was Sir Harwin Strong. Like his brothers Jaehaerys and Lucerys, Joffrey was a dragon rider, bonded to the dragon Tyraxes. His life was a tragic tale of valor, ambition, and ultimate death during the bloody civil war known as the Dance of the Dragons. Joffrey was described as a strong and sturdy boy with brown eyes, brown hair, and a pug nose, physical traits that fueled persistent rumors about his parentage. Many at court suspected that Princess Rhaenyra's children were not fathered by Sir Laenor but her lover Sir Harwin Strong. Joffrey was named after his father's close friend and beloved companion Sir Joffrey Lonmouth, who died tragically in a brutal tournament melee. From a young age, Joffrey was entangled in the Targaryen family's rivalries. While he was only 3 years old, he witnessed a violent confrontation that would leave lasting scars on his family. His dragonless half-uncle Prince Aemon Targaryen attempted to claim Vhagar, the greatest living dragon, sparking a deadly brawl. Aemon struck young Joffrey, who called upon his brothers for help. The ensuing fight cost Aemon an eye, cementing a bitter enmity between the factions that would later plunge the realm into civil war. When the Dance of the Dragons began, Joffrey, though just 11 years old, was eager to prove his worth. He begged to ride Tyraxes to support his mother's claim to the Iron Throne, but Rhaenyra denied him due to his age. His older brothers Jaehaerys and Lucerys went forth to rally support for the Blacks, and Jaehaerys secured Joffrey's betrothal to a daughter of Lord Desmond Manderly in exchange for White Harbor's allegiance. The death of Lucerys at Shipbreaker Bay filled Joffrey with a thirst for vengeance against Prince Aemond and Lord Boros Baratheon. Only the intervention of his grandparents, Lord Corlys Velaryon and Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, kept him from rashly mounting his dragon to seek retribution. Following the death of Jaehaerys at the Battle of the Gullet, Joffrey was named the Prince of Dragonstone, becoming his mother's heir. After the capture of King's Landing, Rhaenyra summoned Joffrey to the capital, planning a grand celebration to mark his formal investiture as heir to the throne. When the storming of the dragon pit erupted, chaos gripped the city. Joffrey, desperate to save the dragons from the mob, led by the fanatical shepherd, begged Rhaenyra to let him fight. Overcome with grief for her fallen sons, she refused to risk him. However, defiant and determined, Joffrey took matters into his own hands. He mounted Syrax, his mother's dragon. Though he had never ridden her before and lacked both saddle and whip, the attempt proved fatal. Syrax, unaccustomed to her new rider, bucked and twisted in the sky as stones and spears rained from below. Losing control, Joffrey plummeted hundreds of feet, crashing into a roof before falling further into Flea Bottom. The impact shattered his body, his back was broken, and shards of slate pierced him. His own sword impaled his belly, sealing his fate. Legend holds that the Candlemaker's daughter named Robin confronted him in his final moments. His last words were, "Mother, forgive me," though historians debate whether he spoke of his mother Rhaenyra or invoked the mother above. The mob desecrated Joffrey's corpse. Looters tore the boots from his feet, claiming the sword embedded in his belly, and hacked his body apart to steal rings and trophies. His right foot was severed, and a butcher's apprentice was sawing his neck to claim his head when knights loyal to Rhaenyra arrived. The knights known as the Seven Who Rode managed to reclaim most of his remains, though 3 of them, Sir Giles Yohnward, Sir William Royce, and Lord Commander Glendon Good, were slain in the effort. After Joffrey's death, his younger half-brother, Aegon the Younger, became Rhaenyra's heir. The tragedy of Joffrey Velaryon's life is a stark reminder of the brutal cost of the Targaryen civil war.
Prince Jaehaerys was born at the end of 114 AC to Rhaenyra Targaryen, daughter of King Viserys Targaryen and Princess of Dragonstone, and her husband Sir Laenor Velaryon. Laenor wished to name the boy Joffrey, in memory of his late friend, Sir Joffrey Lonmouth, but he was overruled by his father, Lord Corlys Velaryon. Instead, the child was given a traditional Velaryon name, Jaehaerys, and nicknamed Jace by friends and family. Jace's uncle, Prince Daeron Targaryen, was born soon afterwards to Viserys' second wife, Queen Alicent Hightower. Trying to prevent any enmity between Rhaenyra and Alicent, Viserys ordered that Jaehaerys and Daemon share a wet nurse until they were weaned, hoping to make them milk brothers would make a difference. Jace's brother Lucerys was born in 115 AC, followed by Joffrey in 117 AC. By royal decree, each of Rhaenyra's sons was presented with a dragon egg while in the cradle. Those who doubted the paternity of the children whispered that the eggs would never hatch, but the birth of 3 dragons proved otherwise. Jacaerys' hatchling was named Vermax, according to Septon Eustace. While holding court, King Viserys once told the young Jacaerys that the Iron Throne would one day be his. The king's hopes for peace between his sons and grandsons was futile. Alicent's 3 sons, Aegon, Aemond, and Daeron Targaryen, became bitter rivals to Rhaenyra's 3 sons, resenting the Velaryons for stealing their birthright, the Iron Throne. The enforced closeness between the boys, attending feasts, sometimes training together at arms, or studying under the same maesters, only increased the dislike. In 118 AC, with the blessing of the king, Rhaenyra announced the betrothal of her 2 eldest sons to their cousins, the daughters of Prince Daemon Targaryen and Lady Laena Velaryon. Jacaerys, 4 years old, was betrothed to Baela, who was only 2. Sir Laenor Velaryon died in 120 AC when his son Jacaerys was 6 years old, and King Viserys visited High Tide on Driftmark with his family for the funeral. Prince Aemon Targaryen claimed Vhagar, the eldest and largest of the dragons, but was caught by Jacaerys' youngest brother, Joffrey. Aemon mocked his 3 nephews as strong boys, alluding to the insinuation that they had been fathered by Sir Harwin Strong, and the 4 boys fought. When Aemon gained the upper hand against Jacaerys, Lucerys took out Aemon's right eye with his dagger. King Viserys decreed afterwards that anyone who mocked his grandsons as Strongs, again, would have their tongues pulled out with hot pincers. Further, Rhaenyra and her sons were to stay at Dragonstone, while Alicent and her sons returned to King's Landing. Eventually, Jacaerys' widowed mother, Rhaenyra Targaryen, married her uncle, Prince Daemon Targaryen. Jace's half-brother Aegon was born at the end of the year, followed by Viserys in 122 AC. Unlike their Valyrian half-brothers, Rhaenyra's younger sons looked entirely Targaryen. In 126 AC, Jacaerys' grandfather, Lord Corlys Velaryon, became ill. The question of who would succeed him as Lord of the Tides and Master of Driftmark became a debate, as his children Laenor and Laena were dead, and Laenor's eldest son Jacaerys would eventually succeed his own grandfather and mother to the Iron Throne. Rhaenyra urged Corlys to name her second son Lucerys as his heir, but Corlys' eldest nephew, Sir Vaemond Velaryon, protested on the grounds that Rhaenyra Velaryon's sons were not Laenor's, but the bastards of Harwin Strong. Rhaenyra and her husband had Vaemond get striked in the head and fed to the dragon Syrax. Vaemond's 5 cousins fled to King's Landing with Vaemond's wife and sons, Damian and Daeron Velaryon, to seek justice before the king. Viserys heard them out, but ordered each of the cousins' tongues to be removed when they called Rhaenyra's sons bastards. Viserys' hand became infected after cutting it on the throne, and it was feared that he might die. On the first day of 127 AC, the king held a feast to celebrate the return of his health, and Rhaenyra and Alicent made a show of amity and love. However, after the king left the feast, Aemon toasted his 3 Valyrian nephews, speaking in mock admiration of their brown hair, brown eyes, and strength, calling them 3 strong boys. Later in the evening, Aegon took offense when Jacaerys asked his wife, Helaena Targaryen, for a dance, but the King's Guard prevented them from fighting. In 129 AC, King Viserys Targaryen died in his sleep, and a succession war broke out between the blacks of Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, Viserys' choice of heir, and the greens of her younger half-brother, King Aegon II Targaryen, Viserys' eldest son. At Aegon's first Green Council, Sir Criston Cole objected to Rhaenyra's claim by stating that her heir, Prince Jacaerys, was a bastard. Jacaerys was 14 years old at the start of the civil war that became known as the Dance of the Dragons. His dragon Vermax was thriving and growing every year. At Rhaenyra's first Black Council on Dragonstone, Jacaerys and his brother, Prince Lucerys Velaryon, volunteered to serve as her envoys to the lords of Westeros to raise support for her claim. Rhaenyra allowed this, but she first made her young son swear on the 7-pointed star that they would take no part in any fighting. The next day, at Rhaenyra's coronation as Queen of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, she named Jacaerys as Prince of Dragonstone and heir to the Iron Throne. Aegon sent terms saying if Rhaenyra would submit, he would grant her the possession of Dragonstone to eventually be inherited by Jacaerys, but she rejected the offer. Jacaerys, as Rhaenyra's oldest son, was given the more difficult mission as an envoy. He flew Vermax to the Eyrie, where Lady Jane Arryn agreed to support Rhaenyra if she defended the Vale of Arryn with dragon riders. Mushroom alleged that Jane offered her support if Jace could please her in bed, but Septon Eustace discounts the story. Jacaerys then gained the support of the 3 sisters by meeting with Lords Borrell and Sunderland at Sisterton. At White Harbor, Jacaerys negotiated with Desmond Manderly at White Harbor that the Lord's youngest daughter would marry Prince Joffrey Velaryon once the war ended. According to Grand Maester Munkin and what we would see in House of the Dragon Season 2, Jacaerys befriended Lord Cragen Stark at Winterfell, as the prince reminded the Lord of a younger brother who had passed away. After drinking and hunting together, the pair swore an oath of brotherhood. Eustace, on the other hand, claimed that Jacaerys tried to convince Cragen to follow the faith of the Seven instead of the old gods. Mushroom states Jacaerys fell in love with Cragen's half-sister, Sarah Snow, and married her in secret in the Godswood of Winterfell, although Archmaester Galdwyn discounts the fool's claim. Mushroom also claimed that Vermax laid a clutch of dragon eggs in the crypts beneath Winterfell. Jacaerys ultimately gained the north through the Pact of Ice and Fire, promising that if he were to have children, his firstborn daughter would be betrothed to Cragen's heir, Rickon Stark. Queen Rhaenyra was consumed by grief after her second son, Prince Lucerys, was killed by his uncle, Prince Aemon Targaryen, near Storm's End. According to Mushroom, Sir Eric Cargill was sent to Dragonstone to avenge the murder of Prince Jaehaerys Targaryen by assassinating Jacaerys and Joffrey. Eric was killed by his twin, Sir Auric Cargill, however. Princess Rhaenys Targaryen was killed at the Battle of Rook's Rest, leaving her grieving husband, Lord Corlys Velaryon, estranged from Rhaenyra. Jacaerys reconciled Corlys with Rhaenyra by naming him Hand of the Queen, and Jace began plotting an attack on King's Landing with his grandfather. He sent his surviving younger brother, Prince Joffrey, to the Vale. Lady Baela Targaryen wanted to marry Jacaerys at Dragonstone, but Munkin claims that the prince preferred to wait until the war had ended. To make up for the losses of Eric's at Storm's End and Maelys at Rook's Rest, Mushroom claims he suggested that the Blacks recruit dragon seeds to attempt to claim the 6 riderless dragons nesting on the island of Dragonstone. Munkin claims the sowing of the seeds was Jacaerys' suggestion. The prince vowed that any man or woman who could master a dragon would be ennobled. Several dragon seeds succeeded in the red sowing, including Adam of Hull, who was adopted by Lord Corlys into House Velaryon. On the request of Corlys and Jacaerys, Queen Rhaenyra legitimized the dragon seed as Adam Velaryon to make him heir to Driftmark. Jacaerys arranged for the safety of his half-brothers Aegon, who was only 9, and Viserys, who was only 7, by reaching out to the Prince of Pentos, who agreed to foster the boys. Near the end of 129 AC, Aegon and Viserys boarded the Gay Abandon and set sail for Pentos, but in the gullet the ship ran into a fleet of warships sent by the Triarchy, allies of the Greens. With Gay Abandon captured and its escort ships sunk or taken, Aegon the Younger escaped on his dragon Stormcloud to Dragonstone to tell the Blacks of the attack. In the Battle of the Gullet, Jacaerys and 4 dragon seeds attacked the Triarchy's fleet with Dragonflame. An easy victory for the Blacks seemed at hand until Vermax flew too low, possibly wounded from a crossbow bolt to the eye or pulled down by grapnel, and crashed into the burning galley. Jacaerys leapt free and clung to the smoking wreckage of the ship, but was struck by Myrish crossbow quarrels until he sank into the sea. The Velaryon fleet managed to push back the Triarchy warships, but Driftmark was sacked by the Essosi soldiers during the battle. The death of Jacaerys, Prince of Dragonstone, was a terrible loss for the Blacks. Many became further despondent after the Battle of the Honeywine, but a vengeful Rhaenyra Targaryen became focused on capturing King's Landing. Near the end of the Dance of the Dragons, Lord Cragen Stark led an army of Northmen to King's Landing to honor the pledge he had made to the late Jacaerys. Lucerys is the second son of Rhaenyra Targaryen and Laenor Velaryon, younger brother of Jacaerys Velaryon and older brother of Joffrey Velaryon. Although presented as legitimate and third in line for the Iron Throne, Lucerys and his brothers are in truth bastards fathered by Sir Harwin Strong. Because of his older brother Jacaerys will inherit the Iron Throne after their mother, Lucerys was set to inherit Driftmark from their father. When Rhaenyra and Laenor return to their chambers in the Red Keep with the newborn Joffrey, they find Luke and Jace playing with Harwin. Luke and his brothers show them the dragon egg that Luke chose for their new brother. Luke asks to hold Joffrey, but Laenor takes him and Jace back to the dragon pit instead for their training. At the pit, Luke, Jace, and Aegon pull a joke on the dragonless Aemond by giving him a pig dressed as a dragon and making squealing noises. Luke later trains in arms alongside Jace, Aegon, and Aemond in the Red Keep's courtyard under Sir Criston Cole. Sometime after that, Luke is present alongside Rhaenyra, Jace, and infant Joffrey, as they see off Sir Harwin Strong, who is departing for his seat at Harrenhal. Luke himself later departs King's Landing along with his mother, brothers, and father for Rhaenyra's seat at Dragonstone. Luke is present when Rhaenyra, Laenor, Jacaerys, and the rest of the royal family during the funeral of his aunt, Laena Velaryon. During the funeral reception after, his grandfather, Lord Corlys, discusses with Luke on his future succession as Master of Driftmark and Lord of the Tides, once his brother Jace ascends the Iron Throne. Luke despondently responds to Corlys that he does not want to rule Driftmark. He reasons that when he becomes Lord of Driftmark, it means everyone else is dead. After the funeral of Helaena Velaryon, Luke accompanies Jace, Baela, and Rhaena as they confront Aemond returning from riding Vhagar, Baela and Rhaena's mother's dragon. When they begin fighting Aemond after he hurls insults at them, Luke joins the fight after his brother is punched to the ground, only for Luke himself to be punched in the face by Aemond, breaking his nose. Despite this, Jace manages to push Aemond to the ground, and he, Baela, and Rhaena begin to pummel Aemond. Aemond nevertheless manages to escape, and when Luke attempts to engage Aemond once again, he is grabbed by the throat by Aemond, who brandishes a rock to hit him with, threatening to burn Luke alive just like his father, before calling Luke and Jace bastards. This prompts Jace to unsheath a knife and attack him, but Aemond dodges him before hitting him in the head with a rock. As Aemond prepares to strike Jace again, Jace blinds him with sand before Luke grabs the dropped knife and slashes Aemond in the left eye. The commotion attracts the attention of Lord Commander Harold Westerling and other members of the Kingsguard, including Sir Criston, ordering the children to cease fighting. After their fight, the children are brought to the Hall of Nine, where King Viserys angrily demands to know from the Kingsguard how this happened, while Aemond's eye is tended to by Maester Kelvin as Corlys, Rhaenyra, and Daemon enter the hall. As the children begin arguing on who's responsible for the fight, Viserys orders them into silence, before demanding the truth from Aemond. Queen Alicent comments on what more can be said since Aemond was made by Luke. Rhaenyra states in the defense of her children that it was a regrettable accident, that her sons were only defending themselves, and that the vile accusations of their parentage were uttered. When Viserys asked what insults were said, Jace states that Aemond called him and Luke bastards. Viserys demands for Aemond to tell him the truth on where he heard the rumors, when Aemond replied that Aegon told him. When Viserys questions Aegon on where he heard the rumors, Aegon simply states that everyone knows based on Luke and Jace's unusual Targaryen appearance. Viserys furiously demands that the children make peace with each other, as they are family, but Alicent declares this is insufficient. She proceeds to demand that in exchange for Aemond's eye, Lucerys must lose an eye as well. Viserys shuts this idea down, but Alicent insists that if Viserys will not seek justice, she, the queen, will, ordering Sir Criston to bring her one of Luke's eyes, shocking Luke and the assembled court. Viserys once again urges Alicent to cease, but as he walks away, Alicent grabs Viserys' Valyrian steel dagger and attempts to carry out the punishment herself, frightening Luke and sending the room into uproar. Rhaenyra moves to stop her and protect Luke, suffering a wound on her left arm in the process. After the confrontation with Lucerys, Jacaerys, Aemond, and Aegon, the following day, Luke and Jace were present with Rhaenyra as her arm is sewn by Maester Kelvin. When Laenor enters the room asking what happened, Kelvin states that Luke's broken nose is the worst to have occurred. Rhaenyra then dismisses Kelvin, followed by both Luke and Jace, claiming that the two have caused enough trouble as it is. Sometime after the incident with Aemond and his father's alleged murder, Luke is present alongside Jace, Baela, and Rhaena for the wedding of Rhaenyra and Daemon at Dragonstone. 6 years later, Luke travels with his family to King's Landing to defend his claim to Driftmark, as Lord Corlys has been severely wounded in the Stepstones. Corlys' brother Vaemond, backed by the Hightowers who rule in the name of the bedridden Viserys, seeks to take Driftmark for himself, believing he is Corlys' heir due to Laenor's death and Luke's illegitimacy. He and Jace go to the training yard. Growing uncomfortable at the many stares that he and his brother are getting, Luke whispers that none of this would be happening if he didn't look like Harwin Strong. Jace tells him that it doesn't matter what other people think. The two then see Aemond sparring with Criston Cole and go to watch. When Aemond wins the duel, he mockingly asks if they have come to train. A potential fight is prevented by Vaemond's arrival. Rhaenyra takes Rhaenys in the Red Keep's Godwood, where she proposes that Jace and Luke should be betrothed to Baela and Rhaena to further strengthen the alliance between the Targaryens and Velaryons. Luke is defended at the hearing over his inheritance by Rhaenyra and Rhaenys, who has agreed to the marriage proposals, and to the surprise of all, King Viserys himself. Vaemond loudly declares the bastardy of Rhaenyra's children, causing Daemon to decapitate him. Once at dinner, Luke can't help but laugh when Aemond is served a roast pig, reminded him of the prank that he pulled with Aegon and Jace. Aemond responds by mockingly toasting the boys as strong. Jace punches Aemond when he says it again. Luke tries to help him, but Aegon comes up from behind and slams his head into the table. Daemon interferes, forcing his stepsons and nephews to back down, while Rhaenyra decides to take her family back to Dragonstone that night. Eventually, Luke asks Rhaenyra if Corlys is going to die, saying that Vaemond was right and the better heir to Driftmark. Corlys was the best sailor alive, but Luke grew up on Dragonstone and is very prone to seasickness, which makes him think that he will ruin House Velaryon. Rhaenyra comforts him by saying she was named heir to the Iron Throne at his age and was also nervous, but in time she earned her inheritance. When Sir Laurent Marbrand informs Rhaenyra of Rhaenys' arrival on Dragonback, Rhaenyra sends her son off. Luke goes out to train with Jace on the beach under Sir Steffan Darklyn, but Rhaenys arrives with news of a Hightower coup in King's Landing that has crowned Aegon in the wake of King Viserys' death. Rhaenyra summons them to her bedchamber, where they arrive to see that she is prematurely giving birth to her half-sister, Visenya. After she tells them of Viserys' death and Aegon's coronation, they are both sent out of the room. At Visenya's funeral, Luke witnesses Sir Eric Cargill deliver the crown of Viserys to Rhaenyra, and joins the others in kneeling to her as the queen. As Rhaenyra tries to firmly establish alliances with the great houses, Jace and Luke volunteer as messengers. Rhaenyra decides to send Luke to Storm's End to treat with Lord Boros Baratheon. Before they leave, Rhaenyra tells Luke not to get into any fights, and that Lord Boros shares blood with him through Rhaenys. He should receive a warm welcome. He leaves Dragonstone on his dragon Erex and flies south. Luke arrives at Storm's End and lands in the courtyard. He is frightened to see Vhagar on the other side of the castle, which means that Aemond arrived before him. He approaches the guards at the door and introduces himself. Brought into the main hall, Luke delivers his mother's message to Lord Boros, the Lord of Storm's End, and is insulted by the wording, and asks Lucerys which of his daughters he will wed, as Aemond has already secured the Baratheon support by promising to marry Floris Baratheon. Luke responds that he is already betrothed. Boros asks him to go home in response, but as he is leaving, Aemond gets his attention and tries to provoke him, asking if he thought he could conspire to steal Aegon's crown without cost. When Luke says that he will not fight, Aemond responds he doesn't want him to, and takes off his eye patch to reveal that he has placed a sapphire in the empty socket. He demands that Luke cut out one of his eyes as payment and throws him a dagger. When Luke refuses, Aemond charges to take out the eye himself. Lord Boros stops the fighting by reminding Aemond of Luke's status as an envoy, insisting he won't allow bloodshed between them under his roof, before ordering his guards to escort Luke out of the castle. Luke finds Erex in a state of great distress. After looking around for Vhagar and finding nothing, he calms Erex and the two fly off into a severe thunderstorm. Luke soon hears the roars of Vhagar and finds himself fleeing from the ancient dragon as Aemond has followed him to claim his debt. Luke steers Erex into a ravine to lose them, but he loses control of his panicked dragon, who blasts Vhagar in the head with dragon flame. As Aemond struggles to regain control over his enraged dragon, Luke and Erex fly up above the storm. As Luke is looking around for his pursuer, Vhagar emerges from the clouds and bites into Erex. As she crushes the much smaller dragon in half with a single bite, Luke is devoured whole. After Vhagar killed Erex and Lucerys Velaryon, Daemon informs Rhaenyra of her son's death. Consumed by grief, Rhaenyra puts aside any doubts she had about going to war.
So what did you guys think of the three strong boys, Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey Velaryon? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't already, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Sith Citadel Discord, links in the description, and consider becoming a join member or sending a super thanks if you wish to further support the channel. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.